Act natural.
Doesn't happen.
Jordan quickly reviews 4 games with other people.
Hi, I'm Jordan. This is Jordan Plays Blue, and this is my new series, creatively called Jordan Quickly Reviews 4 Games with Other People. And here I have other people with me. We have over this direction, I have Ryan and Bethany from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
What's up?
Oh,
And
hi.
below me, we have Melissa McKeck from Room 51.
What up?
And then diagonally, I have the Kirbys with We Game
The best
Together.
direction, of course. The best direction, yes.
The best direction.
The Kirbys
Diagonally
don't have
south.
first names. They're just the
We don't.
Kirbys.
That's all
Every
right.
time someone sees us,
I'm
they're like,
Randy.
Kirby. Hello, Kirby.
You are
Ellen Kirby.
Ellen Kirby, yes.
Fantastic. So this is a new series I'm going to be doing on the YouTube channels, and we are going to each be talking about a game that fits into a category, and I'll have a rotating cast as long as these videos are interesting to folks. And this week our category is games designed by Uwe Rosenberg, who has designed many games. Everybody remember that was the designer?
Are you sure? Did we do that
Just
right?
now, yes.
I hope so. And
Okay, yeah.
and we each picked a game that we like or maybe not like, dislike from them, and we're going to talk about that for a bit, and then we'll go back and forth and we'll go from there. So 4 games in a somewhat quick manner. Let's start with Ryan and Bethany.
All right, guys, we're going to be talking about Agricola. This is All Creatures Big and Small. It's the 2-player, basically standalone game that's kind of a sequel to Agricola. And it's a worker placement game. It's a farm simulation, right? And you're trying to build buildings. You're trying to build fences. You're trying to keep all these animals in there. You're trying to get more and more points by, having your animals breed and get more and more animals that way. It is much less punishing than its older siblings.
You forgot the most important part. You don't have to feed people in this game. The stress is gone. It's gone. I'm not worried about all my people dying all the time. I'm just worried about having enough space for all my animals to make more animals, which is why I actually really like this game. It's shorter, it's compact, and it doesn't stress me out like another game with a similar title that I loathe. But
I'll talk about later with great aggravation.
But yeah, so this one is a really small version of that. It plays in like 20 minutes and you still get a similar feeling without being punished the entire time.
Yeah, but if you're not getting punished, is it really that fun?
Yes, very much so. Yes, it's very fun.
All right. Well, I do like this game. I think as a 2-player, boiled down version, it's fantastic. Setup is way faster. You just kind of like dump out this big thing of components and just
No cards.
and then you're ready to go.
No cards. That's another positive. No cards.
For some people.
Mm.
Right. Thank you, Randy. All right. This is a fun one. It's a great 2-player game. But there are other ones I like better.
Have any of you guys played this one?
No.
I've
No.
only played original Agricola.
I'm
have
sorry.
not.
Agricola.
I'm sorry about that, Randy. You've only played original Agricola. My
I have
sympathies.
played Agricola Family. So would you say that All Creatures Big and Small is more towards the family side or more towards the original side?
Because of the lack of cards, that's definitely closer to the family edition. I think the animals are a little bit more of a feature of this game.
Yes, definitely.
It's basically
Right.
all in on the animals. That's kind of the big shtick.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no.
I have not played that, no.
Melissa.
Yes, Melissa.
Thank you. So I'm not entirely familiar with the whole Agricola thing. I know Agricola exists and everything, but there's so many different versions of Agricola. We've mentioned like 3 so far, and
Yeah.
why? Like, what is there? Are there actual
Why?
differences? Like, what is going on?
So the original version. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, I was going to say, I love, I know Bethany's not going to agree. I love Agricola. It is one of my favorite games of all time, like top 10 favorite games. I love Agricola so much.
You just stressed her out so much.
I know.
Right now.
Did you hear that sigh? Did you at least see it? I'll do it again.
I heard and saw.
So,
Yeah.
Melissa, I know you have played Caverna. So
Yes.
the main Agricola box, like the original main Agricola, is similar to Caverna in
Yeah.
in scope, in rule set, in what you're doing. Very similar worker placement type of mechanisms. It has some changes, obviously, because they're different games, but very similar. Whereas the Family Edition has really just the worker placement aspect, and it doesn't include a lot of. It has Agricola has these cards that you upgrade your farmers up, give you kind of bonus kind of actions throughout the game, and it strips that away. And that really, like, Agricola on its own, like Family Edition, is kind of like light to medium weight.
Okay, cool.
All you do is add one deck, like 2 decks of cards, and suddenly it's like boom, way up here because of how those cards interplay. And so I think they're both fine. You can play Family Agricola in the base box. You just strip things away from it. It streamlines it a lot. I like the full version better, but I think from what I've heard, All Creatures Great and Small even like shrinks it down to like just focus on that one animal husbandry
Yes.
type.
Really
That's cool.
interesting. I didn't
Right.
realize there was that much like depth to that. That's crazy.
And that is the
Yeah.
2-player version of Agricola, right? Like,
Yes.
Right.
there's not like another 2-player one, right?
Oh.
There's expansions to this, but there's only one version.
Right. Because I mean, Uwe started that 2-player versions of like a lot of his bigger games and things. So that's the 2-player
Right.
version.
I think
of
this
Agricola.
is I think this is the first one that he did like that.
I have
I
not
believe
played
so,
Agricola,
yeah.
but I do know that you got it for the family, and you tried. Well, you played with our boys,
I did
and
not. Oh, the family
things
one.
did not
family
end
one,
well
yeah.
that day. I was like, how'd the game go with the boys? He's like, it's a lot of yelling.
Yeah, I
So-
call this like a birthday. Like Agricola is a birthday game. I'll play it with Ryan
Okay.
on his birthday.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me.
That's all you get.
Ellen,
See, I-
Ellen has
Yeah.
done that for me for games. Yeah.
I'm really fortunate.
Love.
When we first got into the hobby, I went to this weird underground board game. I say underground because it was like in a basement somewhere.
Sketchy.
Literally,
Underground.
It was in
that
someone's
one in
basement.
Iowa City?
It was in a
Remember
basement
that?
somewhere.
Are there
my
lots
mom's
of
basement,
tattoos and
guys.
skateboards and punk music?
No,
You have,
not
like,
quite.
no
But there were a
password.
lot of plastic shelves full of board games. And it was in this basement apartment, and this guy was just getting rid of all of his board games. And I bought Agricola from there, and Candace and I have been all about it. Candace really loves it. My wife
That's
Candace really
cool.
loves it. And we used to play it all the time before the kids. We would leave it set up and play it like day after day. And we can't do that anymore.
Wow.
But we used
No.
to.
What a
Sounds like
happy marriage.
nightmare.
What a happy
Oh.
relationship.
You
When did you
literally
wake
just
up?
described Bethany's nightmare.
I like, did
She's
you
like
wake
in a
each
cold
other
sweat
like,
now.
wake up, wake up, wake up.
Such
It's not
fond
Agricola
memories.
again.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Actually,
that's our thoughts on the 2-player game anyways.
That's awesome. Well, I
just
think that's
just a 20 seconds. I'm sorry, Jordan. I was just going to tell a 26 story.
go for it.
20
I
seconds.
bought
story.
Agricola, and I'm like, oh, I really want to play this. And then I heard that Caverna was like a lot like it, but like better. A lot of people were saying at the time. And so I know. So before I even opened Agricola, and this was like my 5th game I ever bought, I sent Agricola back and then bought Caverna, and I haven't looked back.
Wow.
That's fair.
20 seconds about, yeah.
That's fair.
Anyway,
So-
there's
Well, with
My dad
that,
told me. Oh, okay.
with that, let's go to Melissa and talk about Caverna.
Yeah, okay, so I'm talking about Caverna, the board game, which is the better version of Bethany's favorite game of all time, apparently.
Oh.
And this is, it's a worker placement game as well, and it is, I would say, like a sandbox-ish type of Euro game. It's a Euro game with a theme, and I love those. So you're a bunch of dwarves, and you could be a warrior, you could be a farmer where you're taking care of your crops, or maybe have like your animal farm going on, or maybe you could just take care of your cave system, right, and have a whole bunch of rooms, which is dope. So I love that. I love that there's
Love it.
different paths to victory, and like I said, like the theme really comes through for me as far as Euro games go. Now I will say that although I think a lot of people will call it sort of like a sandbox-ish type of game, but it is a worker placement game, so you could get blocked out of what you're trying to go for. So if you really want to be like a crop farmer, but like the spots are taken, yeah, you can't do that this
Yeah.
turn. But with that being said, there's always tons of great options you could go for, which is awesome. So you're never really blocked out of doing something like that is good for you. So that is really what I want to talk about with Caverna.
I feel like when Melissa explains games, I'm like, I want to try that now. Like, you make it sound so fun. Something in your voice. I tried playing this game, and I did not have a great experience. And I think sandbox is why. And I didn't really know what that word was at the time when I tried it. I tried playing this pretty early on in my gaming career, which is not good.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what is this? And I feel like if you don't know the tiles, it feels so wide open that you don't even know what to do. But we did have a friend bring over the expansion for it, which what was it called? Something folk.
Forgotten
Folk.
Okay.
And it kind of gives you like a starting thing to do. So that did set me on a path, which made the game I felt better. But this Caverna is one of Randy's like favorite games.
No, I really like Caverna. I like the fact that not everybody can do like the same general strategy because of those spots that, like Miss Lissa was saying, they get taken. So it's all about trying to figure out almost who's doing less of what and trying to exploit that as much as possible. And then obviously getting the different tiles that go with it, like a cooking cave or, whatever your engine is based off your strategy for that game. And there's so many different directions you can go. Lots of paths to victory. Lots, you can, again, you can focus on the caves, with the mining and the donkeys and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, donkey.
Yeah.
The donkeys.
I really like-
my kid's favorite game to play with.
You're mining donkeys.
No, donkeys work in the caves of the mines.
Yes.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh. My kids love to play with this, like play with the pieces.
The little pieces are fun.
Yeah, they love the little animals.
Yeah,
This
is
is
the
my
second
father.
best.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say,
I was
this
just-
was actually my number one game of all time last year. So we'll see if that stays true, but
Teaser.
these
What about
are...
your dad, Ryan?
All right. So
What about your dad?
my dad, when I was a young lad growing up in rural Iowa, he told me the most wise words I've ever been told.
You grew up in the same city I did.
Yeah, I know. Son, there's two kinds of people in this world, and you can only be one of them. A Star Wars fan or a Star Trek fan. You can't be both.
Ooh.
I chose Star Wars, haven't looked back. I feel like this is the same thing. People chose the Agricola camp, people chose the Caverna camp, and you can't do both. I chose the
Does
Agricola
feel
camp.
like that.
I chose the Agricola camp, and I've never played Caverna. I know I would love it. I know I would.
I agree with you on the Agricola.
But it ain't your camp.
I made my camp, and I'm staying with it.
Also, Ryan's dad does not sound like that.
I'm like, who is this legend of a man?
Right?
Wise man.
No Iowan sounds like that.
He's an import.
So I have played both. I mean, Randy, you said you've played both. So I think I am in the Agricola camp. However, Caverna is an excellent game. It is a very good game. I think I remember the hype when it was being released, and everybody, they were saying like it's Agricola only better. Like that was, and Agricola was at one point the number one game on BGG, number two game.
Yeah.
For a while,
I think it got to number one for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, they were flipping, and so when Caverna came out, it was hyped. Like the box was bigger, it had like so much more stuff in it, and I think, to me, it came down to like the biggest differences were either the cards, like those upgrade cards, versus the exploration of the cave. And I think those felt to me the biggest differences between the two. And I just preferred the upgrade cards to the exploration part of it. But I would never fault somebody for thinking Caverna was better than Agricola. I think.
Well, that's good. So I would never hate someone.
I wouldn't like.
I would
kill
never
them,
tell
but-
them. To their face.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on this guy's video.
Your opinion is contrary to my fact.
When
Oh
Randy
my
logs
gosh.
off, though, it's fair game.
That's fine.
Well, yeah.
That's fine. No problem.
Oh.
Yeah, I definitely like Caverna better than Agricola as far as that goes.
Yep.
And I think it's captured a lot more people because obviously the board gaming is skyrocketed even in between Agricola and Caverna. And I think a lot of that is going to lend towards whoever played the last one, especially when somebody's generally saying that Caverna is better.
Mm.
I think that's just kind of a little bit of groupthink, I think, goes into that as well. But
And I think the theming is probably more enticing. I mean, why would
Yeah.
dark ages farming versus you know
Like fantasy.
Well, then they have the
Yeah,
cool like
yeah,
shields,
fantasy.
the shields that you can do for the
Yeah.
adventuring and the
Yeah, I want to
exploring.
be a warrior.
And Ryman's like,
I wanna
but
be a
the
farmer."
sheep, the sheep.
And there's sheep in
Have you
Caverna.
seen those goats? I mean, come
You
on.
can actually sleep with the sheep in your
This is
cave.
true. You
Yeah,
can have
that's
a
true.
pet.
Yeah.
You did the
You
Agricola.
can pet
You can
donkey.
do that in
pet in
Agricola
your
too,
house
that's
in
exactly
No,
what it is.
Agricola.
You can have
Yeah.
better pets in Caverna.
Yeah. Aren't there
Yeah.
dogs?
There are dogs.
Dogs
are
and
dogs.
donkeys? Yeah.
Dogs, donkeys, boars, cattle, and sheep.
Yeah.
But do you have to feed your
Yeah.
people? Tell
Yeah.
Bethany whether you have to feed your people or not.
You do have to
A
feed your
little
people.
bit.
but
Yeah.
it-
Gone.
it's a
Both
lot-
games.
it's-
Gone.
It's a lot
Gone.
easier.
It's easier.
It's a lot easier.
It's just a
Yeah.
little.
Just a little bit of feeding. Jeez.
Agricola gave feeding your people a bad name.
I get like stressed out
It's
feeding
hard.
my children. I just don't want to do it in the game.
Right though? Oh my gosh. Mom,
Making
I'm
sure
hungry.
they
I'm
have, like-
how though? How?
Yes.
I feel like
yes. Yes.
I feel like Uwe's gotten a hint from people that people don't generally like to feed people, because the game we're going to talk about is Feast for Odin,
There's the transition.
and
That's good.
you have to feed your people in Feast for Odin, but it is the easiest feed your people of all the Uwe's that I've played, at least.
I absolutely think so too.
Because you actually automatically get food that you can
Mm.
use to feed your people in Feast for Odin.
Yeah.
So Feast for Odin, now that we're talking about it,
So
is
naturally.
absolutely
Yeah.
the best Uwe game ever
Is
created
that your favorite game?
by far.
Isn't it your actual favorite game too? Like
It is. It is.
There you go.
It's also the highest ranked out of the Uwe's on Board Game Geek. So
there's
that's a
that.
fact.
So we beat you guys
No.
because that's the game we picked tonight.
But it's probably the biggest worker placement game of all the worker placement games because of the amount of spots alone.
Crazy.
I mean, there's
working.
just umpteen different spots you can go. And it looks super intimidating, but when you kind of break it down and you kind of look at it into sections, there's essentially 4 columns of places that you can go. And it's this big board, big rectangular board. And each one of those columns essentially does more or less the same thing, but in varying degrees of effectiveness. So in the first column, it takes 1 Viking. In the second one, it takes 2 Vikings. In the third one, it takes 3 Vikings. And the fourth one takes 4 Vikings. So obviously you're using more Vikings, but you're getting more product and more things in return for those Vikings.
It's very satisfying. It's I think also too, like what's intimidating is there's a lot of off-board things that you can bring in to have to fill up. And a lot of people who play for the first time don't even go for those because it does look super intimidating. It's like, I can't even fill up my own board. How am I going to be able to do like another one as well? But it's actually, there's so much strategy in doing that, and you can actually score big points by going over and like getting little islands over to fill up.
Right.
What's the name? What's that word?
Yeah, polyomino.
Polyomino,
Yeah.
baby. I was going to say polygram. That's wrong.
Uwe has a lot of polyomino games, and he's got like, there's just been a bunch that have come out.
This is like my favorite one of that.
But this one is
though.
not like a puzzly polyomino. So if you have some spatial problems with like, say, patchwork, which is very much, you got to perfectly fit them together.
Oh my gosh.
This is not like that. There is definitely some of that early game and with some of the sideboards that Ellen was talking about. But essentially you have this main board and it has a whole bunch of -1 spaces on it. And you have to cover as much space as you can by obviously going to worker placement spots and getting these little tiles. Most of the tiles are actually squares or rectangles.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are. And then a lot of the special tiles have, the regular kind of weird polyomino shapes to them. And, but your main goal is really just to fill it up because that's how you fill in the most spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, there are a lot of ones that are like really small that fit into those holes. So it's not like a lot of polyomino games where you're hoping to get just that perfect one to fit in there.
Yeah.
It's not.
Because you can use like your
doesn't have
money
that
that you
stress to
earn
it.
during the game to like put little coins in the little holes and things like that. And it's very easy to get that. It's really not.
And you can even
Is
use
that
a
like-
board.
Yeah.
Is that like the cats in Cottage Garden?
Or the pots.
The pots in Cottage Garden?
Yeah, they
It's
kind of
like-
fill up individual spaces, exactly. And what's nice about it is because it's like, this game would take forever to explain. So I'm not going to obviously explain everything in it. But if you fill in like a certain like square section, then you get more income. So sometimes you're trying to fill in these last couple of spaces to get extra income. So it'll be worth spending 3-5 coins maybe to get a couple extra bucks in income. You know, so you can kind of expand out more. But the addition with those like sideboards and things that you can do, and you're kind of working on both boards. These sideboards that you're trying to fill up, they'll give you different tiles and different coins and items that you can use on either board. And if you surround a certain objects, there's like little objects all over the grid. If you surround them, that's what you get. You basically produce that every round. There's just so many.
He loves it, guys.
There's
He
so
loves
many good
it.
things about it.
It's a great game. There's so much to it. I remember I've only played it once, and it was late at night at a con, and I don't know if I could fully appreciate it because of the mental state I was
I'm
in.
going to say you couldn't because that's an intense game. And if you're at a convention playing it late at night, you ain't getting it.
But it was, you know, it's one of those games that was very intimidating for a long time. Like I had almost avoided playing it because of, you know, there's 60 to 70 worker placement spaces. But once you learn it, you're like, oh, but every 5 of those is the same. It's just
exactly,
you know, this one is getting you fish, but this space gives you 1 fish, 2 fish, 3 fish,
red fish,
you know,
blue fish.
Exactly. And so like you didn't have to learn 70 different spaces. You only had to learn 50, 20 different spaces like you do in every other.
It's pretty forgiving too if you decide to go like hunting or trapping. If you fail your mission, you still get like a card back or something. Like you get something back every time, so you don't feel like you're totally like bottoming out when you fail.
Yeah, because there's you can go raiding, so there's like ships. So there's different ways you can go about it. You can do like kind of a more hunting thing where you're using like cards for card play for swords and bows and things. There's some raiding or whaling that you use like various different boats on. And then there's just like a general trading aspect to it. And it even has a touch of breeding as well.
Yeah. It's definitely a game that seems to lend itself to like playing a lot because there's so many different like paths to explore as you're playing it.
Yeah. Funny story about this game. I owned the game. I had it all set up. We took a picture for Instagram, like, hey, guess what we're playing? And then we posted it and everything, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, like, how was it? Blah, blah, blah. And it turned out we actually didn't get to play it. So, because we got distracted, whatever. And then we had to pack it up, and I'm like, yeah, funny story, didn't actually play this one.
About that.
Clickbait.
Who planned that?
False
We got
advertising.
like 500 followers after that. It was awesome.
It was great. So, trending. But yeah, so I still have the game, haven't played it, but I feel like I would really enjoy this one. I just need to get it to the table.
Well, it sounds like it's got all those little aspects of a lot of his kind of styles of games, right? He loves those tile laying games. He loves those worker placement games. And this is kind of like the mega super hybrid of all of his go-to mechanisms.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last one. That's me.
Yay.
So
there was much rejoicing.
That's it.
Yay.
The game I picked, I think Uwe Rosenberg released like 4. He released a bunch of games last year.
I think it was 4. I just looked it up.
Was it 4?
No.
So I played 3 of them. I played Fairy Trails, which I'm not going to talk about, but you can check that on my Instagram page.
But did he really play it though?
Yeah, he just
take the
posted
picture?
it.
Did you play it enough?
I played it
review it?
enough. There was
How can you know?
New York Zoo, which is right next to Jesus
Oh,
up
I
here,
love that
Yeah,
game.
that was a good one.
hanging
Love
out with
it.
the J-Man, and then Nova Luna, which is the one I was going to talk about, and that was the one I played earliest in the year. That one may have actually come out in 2019, but it didn't make it to US until 2020, as far as I'm aware. So in Nova Luna, the game that is probably people would compare it closest to is Patchwork, which I think is really interesting because it doesn't have polyomino pieces, which is like what Patchwork's core mechanism is getting the little quilt squares and putting them together. It doesn't have that, but it has the other half of Patchwork almost exactly there. So in Patchwork, the way that you're collecting the quilt tiles is you have a ring of these tiles laid out, and you're moving around this circle, and you're going to be drafting these tiles based off of how far you move in the circle. Nova Luna has the same exact drafting mechanism. And so all of the tiles that you're collecting are squares, and they're different colors. And so as you are placing them down, each one is going to have a different color and has different objectives printed on the tiles. And those objectives are telling you which other colored tiles you want next to that tile. So if I have this color tile right next to it, I put this color tile down, and it wants 3 light blues next to it. So I want to make sure there's a cluster of at least 3 light blue tiles next to it. And once I do that, I put a little cube on it. And then on this direction, it might want 2 reds. And then if I get a cluster of 2 reds next to it, I get to put another one down. And you have a group of these cubes that you're putting down. And once you run out of cubes, first person to run out of cubes wins. So you're building out this tile laying, grid kind of Carcassonne, cacao kind of style, but you're just putting these little cubes on it, and whenever you run it out, you win. It is super abstract. It has a theme
Sounds fun.
to it, which is like super new agey moon cycle.
Yeah, isn't the cover like a wizardy type person with like a moon and like flowing
I don't think there's a
hair or
person on it, but it has like
really
patterns, and it has like a moon and different phases on it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the different game. And
You're thinking of this
Nova
game.
Luna.
Wait, hold on. Where is it?
Oh,
Where is it?
gosh.
This one.
I'm
That
embarrassed. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
this
Isn't
is
there
Nova
like a
Luna.
person with hair.
Let's talk about Luna.
Get that game out. Come on, let's talk about it.
So it's kind of hard to explain because it is an abstract game, so there's not really much to like ground it in. But the tiling and that puzzle of how to score each tile it's just really interesting. And I will say I like it better than Patchwork, even though I love Tetris polyomino games. I love them. There's like a ton around me. I think Patchwork is fine, but I think it's done better in a number of other games. But I think Nova Luna does that drafting better because it only has one currency that no, it doesn't have any currencies. Whereas Patchwork has 2 currencies. You have the buttons and you have time, and Nova Luna Nova Luna has time. It has time.
How do you compare it to Cottage Garden? Have you played that one?
I have played it, compared it. It is different than Cottage Garden.
Because I mean, you draft in that same.
Yeah.
You move the wheelbarrow type
That
of
is
thing.
true. Yeah, Spring Meadow has
And
that same
that's
thing.
that's not how you draft them. That's how it fills the board is
Yeah.
by that circle.
Yeah, so it's going to be it's a little different. I think it feels closest to Patchwork, but it has that same kind of motif, I think.
And so they're all individual squares, right? You're saying, right?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're just square tiles with colors on them, and you put little cubes on them. It was nominated. It was nominated for the Spiel last year, and it lost. But yeah,
wow. Apparently, I didn't look at the Spiel very well last year because I don't remember that game like at all.
You just described my 4-year-old's toys. You're like, it's like these colorful tiles with these
and
things.
then you put cubes on them.
So blocks then?
To be honest, I don't actually know they're cubes. I think they look like they're like those little discs, like little mints that you put on.
Okay. Yeah, cute.
But I thought it was a lot of fun. It was not in my top 10 for the year. I don't know. I'd rate it probably like a 7. It's very different than most of his games. Honestly, I think it's, where he has like his big kind of worker placement, farming kind of big games like Hallertau that's just coming out now, which I've played most of those. And then he did his polyomino thing for a while. And this is kind of a weird offshoot of that. I don't know if he's going to be releasing games similar to this now, but I think it's really clever and really interesting.
This game, I've heard of it, but this is probably the one that I knew the least amount about out of all of the games we spoke about. And I would try it, but honestly, it doesn't sound like something I'd like. It kind of sounds like it'd be boring. I don't know.
That's fair. It does not.
Like
it doesn't sound exciting. I can't fault you for that.
I'd try it, but I'm probably gonna hate it.
So where does it rank in the general Uwe list for you? Is it like kind
For
of
me?
upper, mid, lower?
I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Because you've played quite a few Uves. I think you've probably played more Uves than any of us here.
I've played a lot of Uwe's games.
I want to say that I've played.
A lot of Uwe.
I
What?
want to say 7-ish, maybe. I think I've played of his.
Okay, I've played more
Probably
than
in that
that,
ballpark
for
too.
sure. Yeah.
I play what he plays, so I'll say 7 also.
It's okay. We all have our faults. It's fine.
Yeah,
I've
he's
only played like 3 or 4.
he's one of my
Probably more
favorite
than
designers.
I just checked.
Yeah, he's definitely way up there for me as well.
Yeah, which is interesting because I usually skew in like like games I've been digging recently. I usually skew a little lighter, like light to midweight games. But if I'm gonna play a heavy game, I would play one of his games because they don't feel overwhelming or like overwrought. You know.
Agricola!
They're usually not very rule heavy either.
Yeah.
You know,
Such a weird cough. What's
there's
going on?
lots of depth and strategy and things, but it
The
never
sinus
really
infection.
feels it never really feels like it's the rules overhead is like super big.
Yeah.
Although the rule books are giant.
There's usually like a lot of cross-referencing with like in this really weird scenario with this card and this card and this card and this card.
Right.
Then you get 2 wood.
I mean, I know it goes without saying for like any games. It's somebody that if you get taught a game versus reading a game, it's generally much easier, right?
Mhm.
But I think that's especially true with Uwe because the rule books are like so expansive and there's lots there's lots of reference guides and things that go with them. But I think they're generally can be explained fairly quickly to at least get you jumped into the game.
Yeah.
And you can generally jump into his games and be okay like a quarter of the way through, kind of get your bearings and not be doing that much worse.
He also iterates a lot on his past games. So if you've played a game of his, like if I was teaching Nova Luna and you've played Patchwork before, we're already halfway there, you know?
Yeah.
Or if you're playing, we're teaching Caverna and you've played if you've played Agricola or you've played Ora Labora or you've played Fields of Arl or any of those games, you're like, okay, I'm building a farm. I'm building farm tiles. Okay, great. I'm building fences. Great. I can do this.
I'm listening to you say this, and I'm like, that's so darn true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Uwe, when I think of his games, I think of like specific things.
Yep.
So yeah,
like farming.
that's cool.
He's got a type.
I do like that he injects like theme into these Euro type games, which I always appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and they're always very well produced. They especially like even like the little wooden pieces, they're not just all cubes except for Nova Luma.
I will
but
say
usually there's some.
Oh, do you have a sinus infection too?
Yes, I think it's transferring.
Coming through the waves.
Where are
it's
you
funny.
from here?
It's funny you say that, Randy, because my copy of Agricola has cubes and discs. Like when it first came out.
So does ours.
Yeah, when it first came out, the animals were cubes, the vegetables were discs, and I've considered purchasing a new version of it because it comes with the animals and the vegetables.
We bought an upgrade kit.
Yeah,
it's cheaper to buy a new game than it is to get an upgrade kit at this point.
I would give like Agricola a pass on that, even because it was. I mean, it's pretty old.
It's an old game. Yeah,
gamers are really like,
and that was like
now. Like,
you didn't have to
this
do
cute.
anything back then.
Make this cute.
But I remember
You know what I mean?
when Gates of Loyang came out, which was 2 games after Agricola, I think it was after Le Havre, which Le Havre didn't have really wooden pieces; it was all little cardboard chips.
Tiles,
it was tiles. Yeah,
but when Gates of Loyang came out, all of the vegetables are different shapes, and it was so cool. They were all different shapes and colors.
There's like radishes and stuff, right?
Yeah, leeks.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
leeks and turnips and.
Actually.
So I've already disclosed my favorite Uwe game is still Agricola, and I know Randy said his was Feast for Odin, and Melissa said hers was Caverna. What about the rest of Jens? What is your favorite Uwe game?
Well, Ryan's has got to be Agricola, right?
I think so. I think that I really like Le Havre.
Yeah.
I think Agricola wins it. And I think the main reason is honestly how I was taught. You ever have one of those games where it's like someone teaches you and you don't like that person, and then you judge the game that way?
Totally.
So yeah.
What is that?
Gosh, I don't like that person.
Yeah, Lahav.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
so
She's
I
like, I know
always
what you're
like,
talking about.
whenever I think about that game, I'm like, I really like it, but,
Mhm.
and that's not fair to the game.
Interesting.
But it's
not.
psychology. Yeah.
But there's
Right.
so
Melissa
many
can probably tell me why that is. But Agricola for sure. I love it. There's so many expansion decks
She's
and
off the
things.
clock. Leave her alone.
There's so many different decks you can buy and just make it endlessly expandable and all different combinations of all the cards. It's fantastic.
But now you
For
can
sure.
play online, so it doesn't matter.
But they only have like online, unlike whatever it is, Guadaju. There's only 3 decks: the easy, the basic, and
The
I
I
try
deck,
to
the
come
E
up-
deck, and the
Yeah.
I want all the decks.
I try to come up with excuses at
A
least
deck?
once a year to get it out of our collection. And this is my attempt today. You all
Oh my
witnessed
gosh.
it.
What about
Mine,
Tabletop
like-
Simulator? Does that have like all the expansions?
I haven't looked, honestly. I'm sure, I bet it has a lot.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Bethany, what's your
Oh,
favorite?
Mine, like, I feel so like dumbed down. It's Cottage Garden. I love Cottage Garden. That's so
Yeah.
fun
No shame.
for me.
No shame.
I've never won it, but I still really enjoy it, and I like the little cats, and I like drafting
They're
these
cute.
tiles. And I have like there's tiles that I name, like the chair tile, and I always try to get it, even if it doesn't work with my board.
Like to a fault.
Don't
It's
care,
like,
need it.
This is probably why I
That one?
don't
Like,
win
this is
the
gonna make you
game.
lose. Don't care. I need it.
I
Chair
need
tile.
a chair. I need a chair. Or there's one tile that has like a teapot on it, so I need to get that tile, even if it doesn't like really work with what I'm doing.
I don't even have to
Have you
try.
played? Have you played Patchwork?
Yeah.
Okay, but you still like College Garden better than Patchwork then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Patchwork is really fun, and our 7-year-old really likes it. She also beats me at that game because even though I really like these tile drafting games, obviously it's not my forte. But that's okay.
Yeah, the way you draft the tiles in Cottage Garden, I think is really cool.
Yeah, through that grid system. So
Yeah,
I
that's
have
true.
a lot of fun
That's
with
true.
that.
Yeah, Bethany, one of my favorites is Spring Meadow of his. I like it better than
I'll have
Cottage
to try that
Garden,
one.
but I think it's really solid.
I have
I wanna
only
try both
played
of
that one
those.
in the series. I haven't played any,
Okay.
and I want to play all of them, but
Yeah,
when will that happen?
that's great. Never.
Alright,
Too
so
many
Owen,
games.
what's yours?
Just move on.
What's my favorite?
Better
Feast
see-
for Odin is
Yes.
one of them.
No, come on.
But-
I really love
Berry
New York
Trails.
Zoo.
New York Zoo.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's just
really good.
darn
It's
cute,
really good.
and I love how you can get like a new little. It's not a pen. It's an
Enclosure.
Enclosure.
A little enclosure on your board, and you can move animals around from like one enclosure to the next. They don't all have to come
Yeah.
from like this space over here. So I just love the way you can move the animals around. I love the way you can strategize like what's gonna breed next. It's just so stinking cute. Plus, we say like call the animals weird names. It's just fun. Just another
It's
layer of
really
fun.
good. I like it.
Yeah,
a
It
lot.
is really
It's
good.
adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not too heavy, you know. It's got
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's got polyominoes without being too crazy, because that's one of the only polyomino games you can actually kind of. I mean, I know Patchwork is too, but where you don't have to work off each other.
Mm.
You can kind of just go
Right.
wherever
Yeah,
you want.
I love
and then fill
that.
them in
Yeah.
as you go
It's a
along.
little more
Yeah.
freeing.
Cool.
That's mine.
You have to feed your animals.
No.
Forget it.
You don't have to do
No.
any
I'm out.
feeding. There might be a feed the animals to somebody, to a different animal, like an expansion, maybe. I don't know.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
Now we're talking.
Alright. Well,
Horrifies.
I was looking at Bethany's
No. I'm like intrigued now. I'm like, ooh.
Bethany, I think you would like New York Zoo if you
Yeah.
like Cottage Garden that much. I think
Yes.
New York Zoo would be right up your alley.
I probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched half
It's
of
cool
your
because
guys'
you can do a lot
playthrough
of, you can do a lot of like forecasting, like Ellen said. You know what's kind of coming up, so you can kind of make sure that you expand or get certain things kind of before then. So
Mhm.
it's cool.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Why don't we go around and give a quick bitch? How can, all 7? I have more than 7. That's putting it. I'm putting down my followers. I have plenty of followers, and they're fantastic. They subscribe. They sometimes watch my videos, and it's wonderful. It really boosts my ego and makes me feel better about myself. So, Melissa, you wanna start?
Sure, yes. Okay, so yeah, I'm from Room 51, and we are on YouTube, Twitch, podcast, and Yeah. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at This Is Room 51.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kirby's.
That's us.
Yep.
We're We Game Together.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
I get your cup too.
Buy their merch.
So my birthday's in March. If one of those showed up in the mail, I wouldn't be upset.
We're also going to play Agricola for her birthday.
That's right.
Oh, lovely.
I'll get you a deluxe edition of Agricola. No, but we're on YouTube is our primary, or even Instagram. But we do mostly Instagram is just kind of very casual posting of just like what we're doing. But we do live plays a lot on Mondays, and we do some previews and reviews here and there. But we don't like doing reviews because I think they're boring and I don't like them.
No.
But I know that they're necessary and vital to the hobby.
They are.
It's the title of
why
our
is it so
bit.
boring?
I know.
We have a really hard time with it.
I don't like doing them. I like watching them. I just don't
watch them all day, but doing them, props to you guys.
So we're moving a lot more to like live content, more like off the cuff kind of stuff and things like that. So, but that's us, yeah.
And New Myers.
So we are Ryan and Bethany board game reviews. That's our name. That's where you can find us. We give you the content you want. As Randy just said, everybody wants reviews. You can.
People like top 10s more though.
Yeah, they do. That's a lot of work. I don't like those. Anyway, so you can find us on YouTube. That's where most of our stuff is. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, and then we pretend to be on Facebook too.
Yep, great. And
we do like nothing with Facebook, but somehow people still go there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm Jordan. The whole reason you tuned in today, and if you're not following me on Instagram, you should, because that's where I do most of my stuff. I reviewed over 150 games last year, and you should all check it out. I'm not going to do that many this year, I promise. And we'll do more of these instead.
Did you hit it? Did you hit 2K? Are you at 2K?
Not yet.
Aww.
I lost
After this video, they will be.
I lost about 10 followers this week, so I have been like sitting
bots.
right under 2K.
They're all bots.
For a while. It's been really disconcerting because I keep every morning I wake up, I'm like, no.
I could make a few accounts real quick if you want.
That would be really helpful.
We could all make a few accounts.
I'm gonna make 10 accounts, and then 3 minutes later I'm gonna unfollow.
Oh, poor guy.
Randy plays blue. We Game Together plays blue.
Yeah,
Ellen plays blue.
We turned the blue lights on just for you, Jordan.
Yeah, we sure did.
No, but seriously, I did a haircut. I trimmed my beard. I've been trying to like wear lower cut shirts, and it's been helping, honestly. And I'm really glad. I'm really happy with the results.
Excellent.
Yeah, look at the work he's putting in, guys. Follow him. He's cut his hair for you.
I did it.
He cut his hair for you, okay?
He says lower cut shirts, but it's like
he wears lower cut shirts.
All right.
All of his lower cut shirts are underneath other shirts.
All right. Bye.
Bye.